The simple life is living the life you want, not what you've been told. Each one of us has to take the responsibility to make this a better place and fight for what we believe in.
Welcome to Fierce Planet Adventures podcast. Today's guest has a very interesting and unique background that includes military intelligence, special agent for the U.S. State Department Diplomatic Security Service, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Gary Collins' background and expert knowledge brings a much-needed perspective to today's areas of simple living, health, nutrition, entrepreneurship, self-help, and being more self-reliant. The Simple Life book series, his total lifestyle reboot, blows the lid off of conventional life and wellness expectations and is considered essential for every person seeking a simpler and happier life. So, Gary, we try to start things out by asking our guests, what are you grateful for today?
My life of freedom, as best as I can. I guess I'm an old fart in these ways because I started all this before it was very popular, and there was 50 million YouTube channels and a bunch of millennials espousing life simplicity and how to live off the grid. So nothing against millennials, but against them. But been around a little longer. I always love when they converse with me and tell me things that I did for a living and how they work, and they never did them. But that's another topic for another time.
Nice. Gary, what does it mean to live a simple life?
For me, it's really basic. It's living a life that you want, as long as you're not hurting anyone else. What you do doesn't infringe upon their freedoms and their lifestyle. My attitude is, who cares? The simple life is living the life you want, not what you've been told. That's how I look at it. And I think today in the United States, a lot of people, most people are living the life they've been told instead of the life that they want. And I think that's why you see a lot of depression, a lot of people who are obese, overweight. I call it the lost souls. I mean, I also call it, widget in, widget out. That's kind of the society we're in. Big Rush fan. So I look at the song Subdivisions and, how Neil Peart was so prophetic in a lot of the things that he wrote about in the lyrics. But we're literally living subdivisions right now. And I think it's raised its ugly head. It is culminating and it's coming to a point where people are going to have to make a decision. Do they want to live the life they want or the one they've been told to live?
Big hat tip to Neil Peart and Rush. Love them. Great. It sounds to me like what you're saying kind of resonates with me. Well, it totally resonates with me, but also maybe embodies a little bit of the libertarian philosophy.
Absolutely. And I made a joke. I delved back into the libertarian movement yet again. I did it back in the day, and I consider Matt Kibbe a good friend. And when he was at Freedom Works and the Tea Party, I was fully in, and then it imploded and exploded. And I've had issues with libertarians, and they know it. I call it the party of great ideas and no action. And until they get there, and I joined the LP again, and I'm leaving again because all I hear is a lot of thoughts and theories and no action. And that's the problem we're at today. So yeah, I have a lot of libertarian beliefs, but I'm oddball. I actually do the things that I believe in, actually take action and live the life that I prescribe, which is crazy, very contrarian today, I know. But yeah, I think we have enough BSers and academics and politicians telling us what to do when they never do it themselves. I think there's plenty of that. We need more people who do things.
Yeah, 100%. So watch what somebody does, not necessarily what they say. But in your case, I guess, watch what you do and what you say. Listen to what you say, because you're the whole package. You bring it all together.
Well, and in this kind of era of, cancel culture and the wokeness and I always tell them, come my way, I'll lop off your head and leave a burning rib cage behind, because I do all the things I talk about. I go, you can't poke holes in something that, that is real. And I tell people, I go, there's no BS, there's no facade. I didn't create this to be some self-help guru and tell you I'm not your guru, then I'm going to mentally mind screw you to be your guru. I don't do that stuff. You either like what I do or you don't. It's a free world. It's not going to hurt my feelings if you don't like it, because I do it out of place to help people. I do it as a place I thought, I can't go into politics because I would choke half of Congress out during one session. And I just knew that wasn't my route after spending half my life in the government. So I said, well, how can I make a positive change? How can I give back and not be another pontificator and another person blowing steam and smoke up people's butts, but actually do something to help people? And that's how this whole company and what I do actually came from. Purely organic. There was no long tail, corporate structure on how to build this thing. It was about finding my way and my purpose, which is a part of the simple life.
Talking a little bit about the importance of taking responsibility for ourselves.
Yeah. And again, I think we're seeing it come to a head right now. We have a lot of people who are victims. Everyone's a victim. And the victimhood mentality, even if you are a victim, don't get me wrong, there are victims in this world. I've worked in law enforcement, military. I've seen victims firsthand. Most Americans are not victims. We've become very soft and we love to blame everyone else for our problems. And victimhood is a fast road to nowhere. I don't care how big of a victim you are or how big of a victim you think you are. I have a saying, I always say, no matter how hard your life is, you will never be ranked as I have the crappiest, hardest life in the world. So stop it. Just stop that. It's not you. It never will be you. So move on. And with that, with the victimhood, I always tell people, I've been there. Hey, I've cried and whined about my poor life too. But what I realized, it did nothing for me. All it did was waste time. And I think we're in a country of victims, and it's showing. I also discussed on recent podcasts I've been on, my own podcast, about something that shows I'm a health guy. Go figure, because I say health is the direction to everything in your life. Your health is your responsibility. It's not your doctor's. It's not Dr. Phil or for mental, or, Dr. Oz for his BS. It's not their responsibility. It's your responsibility. And from there, that you must take action and do these things to better your life. Get out of this victim mentality. And it's because what we saw recently, and I've talked about this mixed in there, that in the last 5 years, I've seen Americans grow at an enormous rate in size. I mean, it's literally shocking to me that I'm watching people get bigger and bigger every single year. And with that, with the recent statistics that I saw, which, who knows sometimes, but they looked fairly accurate from my eyeball test, that now 50% of Americans are considered obese, when just 4 or 5 years ago, it was about 35%. And the majority of it happened during the pandemic in the last year. And the biggest complaint I always got when I was strictly a health guy working with clients and athletes was, I don't have enough time to look like you. This is all you do. And I went, oh yeah, God, I didn't sacrifice my life, grow up in a trailer and build my whole life and put myself through college. You're right. You're totally right. I don't have, it's an excuse. And now that we had plenty of time, people had more free time than they've had probably in their entire life since they were children. And a lot of people were getting paid more than they made prior with unemployment and the benefits and the stimulus. Not all people, don't get me wrong, that we got bigger at an alarming rate. We jumped ahead a decade in obesity, because that was predicted to happen in 2030 from the current model through the CDC. Well, we hit it in 2021, the beginning of 2021. We've got some serious problems. And that one is the biggest indicator to me that people are not taking responsibility for their own actions. That's a problem. And we will implode this country just with health alone, just because we're not going to have enough workers. That's, I'm not talking grind in someone else's business every day if you don't want to, but you're not going to be as productive. It also, obviously, it's going to hurt reproduction. It's going to completely overwhelm the healthcare system. I just, I think people, and I do. I mean, I throw darts. I don't candy coat anything. I go, you're either part of the solution or you're part of the problem. And if you're overweight and obese right now, sitting on your butt complaining, you're 100% of the problem. There's no gray area. You are the problem. And until you realize that and you look in the mirror and go, I'm the problem, it's over, because you're going to sit around waiting for someone else to solve your problems for you, especially the government. Good luck. Good luck with that one.
Right. So I heard two things there, or several things, but two things that jumped out at me. So personal responsibility, and it begins with making choices. Each individual has the ability to make the choices, good choices, bad choices. It's up to us. So what hope do we have as a society in overcoming victimhood when there's a filter of negative information like news, media, social media, government being fed to us 24/7?
Turn it off. That's why I
Just
tell
turn it
people,
off.
you need to live your life. You only need about 5 minutes of news a day, if that. That's what I get. I'll hear it in the background, and and I have to be a little more in tune because of what I do with a podcast, and I'm a guest on shows. I can't be completely, utterly ignorant on what's going on in the world. I would love to. Trust me, if I didn't do what I did, I would not know anything. I would be living in my little, vacuum and turn it all off. But a lot of that is geared towards to keep us at each other's throats. We all know drama sells, peace doesn't. So, with that and understanding that, live a life that makes sense, right? With our government and the way it works today, it creates problems, not solutions. And with the victimhood mentality, they want victims, right? That keeps the wheels turning. If you ever get ahead and you start being more self-reliant, and I always tell people too, this is the biggest thing you need to realize in America. First of all, you're lucky. I've been all over the world. I've been to hellholes. I've seen people who have no hope, none. Their life is predetermined. They will not be able to do anything to get themselves out of their lot in life. They do not have free will. We have free will in this country. Free will means that you decide the course of your life, good or bad. There are no, internal circumstances or wiring that determine your fate. Your actions determine your fate. Crap goes wrong all the time. It's how you react to it that makes you as a person. It's not everyone fails in life. It's how you react to those failures that builds you and makes you a person. So with that, yeah, that's a lot of it is just understand you're lucky. You won the lottery. You didn't do anything special to land here. So take advantage of it. Don't sit around wallowing in poor me. Our poorest, I broke this out. I did a whole book on called Financial Freedom, The Simple Life. I did it all with basic math, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. And I proved that every American has the capability, just by the way our pay structure is, to be a millionaire. Every single American can be a millionaire in this country. Our problem is we blow all of our money and then some, just like our government does. We just keep blowing it. We don't save it. We don't utilize it. We don't look at it as a tool. We look at it as a thing to get shiny objects. So with that, and teaching people that we our poorest are the richest 1% in the world in this country. And I did it, broke it down by math. Everyone wants $15 an hour. I grew up making $3.25, I believe, when I first started. It might have been $3.35 as a 13-year-old washing dishes and busting tables in a restaurant. That's 5 times what I made. And I'm pretty sure things haven't gone up, all things gone up 5 times in the meantime. And I never expected as a 13-year-old to be able to go rent an apartment, own a car, and have a family on $3.35 an hour. Pretty basic. I had no skills. I could barely wash dishes because I was an idiot. I was 13. So now we expect someone who has no experience, zero skills, to make $15 an hour. Well, that's $31,200 a year if you just work 40 hours. If you're a couple, you're making over $60,000 a year cooking fries. Does anyone understand that is an unrealistic expectation of actual worth to society. I'm not saying you're worthless. I've been there. I did grunt jobs. Grew up doing the worst jobs known to man. Grew up poor. No one was handing. I got in the wrong white privilege line. I don't know which one I got in, but it was the wrong one. So understanding that we make plenty of money in this country. We have plenty of opportunity, even as screwed up as everything is right now. But take advantage of it. Utilize it. Utilize everything as a tool to better your life.
So a couple things,
Mhm.
given the fact that, well, I believe it's a fact that our government, the two major political parties, the media has a vested interest in keeping us in fear, divided, angry at each other.
Mhm.
Where do you go to get somewhat unbiased news? What kind of outlets would you recommend?
Yeah, and that's very difficult because as a guy who worked pretty deep for 20 years, I have a good BS meter. I can filter out a lot of what's being said in any news channel, and I can go, that's completely, utterly false. I know it because I was there, and I actually I was around some of these people who were on these shows, politicians and all. Most of them are completely full of crap, 100%. For me, I get it in bits. So I'll watch a business channel for a while in the morning. I like Stuart Varney. He's easy, it's mainly business focused. I get a little bit of current events. Is Fox News skewed? Of course it is. All of them are. You can't win. And then, I like Dan Bongino a lot because me and him have very similar backgrounds. I'm a little older than him, did a little more time in the government, but we have very similar backgrounds. And I noticed that Dan pretty much I just don't see a lot of BS with him. Dan's just a straightforward guy, straight shooter. Don't listen to it every day. I think it's killing Dan slowly but surely what he does. But, because and that's why I never did what he does. It would eat me inside out. But I think he's a real reliable source, and I've been leaning more on his show to kind of reinforce the things that I already know and to stay current. So I like a guy like that because I trust a guy like that usually. And he calls both sides out, even though he leans harder right and he admits it. Uh, what are you going to do? I mean, the left leaning side, I watch CNN. We used to watch CNN in the government. It was the channel that was on early in my career. I can't watch that channel. It is nothing but a propaganda factory. And it's hard. I want both sides. I want to hear both sides. But I'm not, the left has gone off the rails at this point. They have just said, screw it. We're not going to tell the truth. We don't care about the truth. And that hurts me because I'm a middle guy. I like to get my information from both sides and make a rational, educated decision. And I think that's what people are struggling with. We don't have there's two problems. First of all, our news, social media. Don't get your news from social media for God's sakes. Don't go there for it. Stay away from news on social media. But also, I think with our declining health and our inability to think correctly, that's a big part of health is your cognitive function. And I talk about this all the time that, yeah, I'm in my 50s, but my brain works better than it did when I was in my 20s because I figured out and really geared my health as I got older. And it's my priority. Every day I wake up, my health is my priority. Then everything else follows. So I think people have an inability to make rational decisions. Chemically, we're scrambled eggs in our brain today. We're high on sugar, we're high on processed carbs, and that is not a good way to function your brain. Matter of fact, they've shown studies. Literally, you have an inability to think rationally the way Americans eat. It's just almost impossible. Our brains are starving, and also our brains have shrunk over the last 100 years. Go figure. Um, that with that, you kind of find a perfect storm. So, pick and choose. I'm not saying follow what I do. I just found that's what works for me. If it wasn't for what I did, I probably wouldn't even listen to Dan Bongino all that much. Nothing against him. It's just I don't need it. But I'm a guy who has to stay up on current events. So, it's part of my job. I take responsibility for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Multiple sources, assume bias to some degree,
Even Dan and Stewart, I look at them, I go, there's bias in there. I have to be able to filter it out. We're humans. We all have biases. It's part of human nature.
This episode of Fierce Planet Adventures podcast is brought to you by Five Mountain Coaching, licensed unbeatable mind coaching, integrated accelerated vertical growth across 5 domains of cutting edge development designed by retired Navy SEAL Commander Mark Devine. Learn the big four skills of mental toughness and resiliency. Discover the 6 pillars of performance. Test your mettle with custom created crucibles across all 5 domains. Visit fivemountaincoaching.com to schedule your free 1 hour unbeatable mind coaching session. That's the number 5, mountaincoaching.com. Begin your journey to becoming unbeatable today.
How would you broach that subject of victimhood or helping someone get out of that mindset?
Yeah, it's hard. I didn't mean to beat on the left too much there. Trust me. I think both sides suck, and I tell people that. I worked in it, and I go, don't pick either one. Both of them have their agenda. The things I listen to and watch are more because I was military law enforcement, so it tends to skew a little bit towards my biases. I know I opened a can of worms up with that one, but yeah, I'm sorry. What was your question? I was thinking about that when I went, God, everyone's going to think he's some right-leaning Trump lover. And I've been accused of being a Trumper numerous times. And I go, that's funny for a guy who didn't vote for him twice. Huh. Um, but yeah, I didn't vote for either. I said I will not vote for the least of two evils anymore. I made up my mind and I'm done. And so, yeah, I'm sorry, Casey, what was the
Oh,
question?
no, that's fine. Uh, Basically, just how do you broach the subject of victimhood with someone that's so locked into that mindset?
It's hard. And with my, with what I do and the people who I'm surrounded with, we talk about it. It's very difficult to approach the everyday American with rational thought, and I'm very guarded. I don't even tell people what I do. And, I might get recognized here and there, depending if someone's read my books or something, but very rarely. So I hide. But, you know, I try not because if you try and tell someone, I was actually having a conversation with someone earlier today at the gym, and I could tell it wasn't sinking in. So I realized that, okay, they've already made up their mind in certain areas. Just let it go. Because I think the problem too is if you force your ideas on people, today especially, they dig in deeper. I don't know why. I don't know why. I've always been a person that, hey, if I'm screwing up and I'm digging a hole of stupidity, slap me in the face and take the shovel out of my hands, please. Don't let me continue on this path. Well, a lot of people today are locked in that they know everything, that you will not tell, you're not going to change their mind. And I'm a person who's always open. Well, please change my mind. If I'm doing something or I have an incorrect thought process, change my mind. Um, so with it, I think you have to broach subjects, especially with loved ones, friends. They know, I got to trust me. My family knows what I do. My friends know what I do. Only a couple of them follow what I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's even hard on my end with my closest inner circle. It's one of those, they got to find it on their own. And I tell people that humans are weird animals, organisms in the sense that, like I said, especially today, we tend to dig in and you have to get out of that mindset of I'm right and you're wrong. You know what? You're right and you're wrong. And that's how you have to look at everything. Everyone, no one has all the answers, and especially not you. So, you know what I mean? It's like I walk around this planet every day going, golly, I'm stupid. And it keeps me alive because I realize that I am pretty stupid at times. But I learn. If someone comes in and says, "Hey, Gary, this is how you should do this," I'll sit there, listen, and go, "Okay, that makes sense." And I incorporate it. I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't become open minded and listened to others and had other mentors to show me the way. Period. And that's I'm very thankful for that. I'm very thankful that I had people in my life that I listened to and followed that helped me become me. And today we're about me. I don't care. I don't need to hear your crap. I got Google. I'm a genius. If I need to, and I hear this time and time again. Well, I learned it on YouTube. YouTube is actually an area of idiots. I I I haven't used I have a YouTube channel. I turned it off years ago. I mean, it's still there. I haven't added any videos really. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying if you watch YouTube, you're an idiot. What I'm saying is be careful. I've met numerous people who make a ton of money on YouTube who literally know nothing about what they teach. Zero. You need to learn from people who do things and have experience. I call it time in the salt mines, butt in the seat. You got to do the work and experience. Just watching YouTube videos and using Google makes you an expert not. It's about doing things. I know how to build houses because I build houses. I didn't watch it on YouTube. Matter of fact, I didn't watch one YouTube video on how to build any of my properties. I haven't done it to this day. So I did it by learning. I did it by failing. Failing is how you learn. Now, don't fail to fail, but you will fail. So get over it. You know, I mean, I don't know how to explain it any other way. You just better hope you don't fail and chop your arm off. But oh, trust me, I've seen some people do some really interesting things and lose appendages by being completely stupid. And you know how they did it? Learning on YouTube. I kid you not. I go, did you go learn and ask someone how to do that? Or did you? No, I looked on YouTube. I was going to build this counter. What? Yeah, yeah. True story. Cut off his finger. Complete idiot.
There's something that you said resonated with me about just not assuming that you know everything. And I think one of the inflection points in my life, both liberating and confounding for me, was when I realized that I really didn't know everything, or what I did know wasn't correct. And I think if people start approaching that with that filter, that, we can have such better conversations amongst ourselves across different party lines or different belief systems.
Well, I think the easiest way to look at it is even our party system doesn't make sense. How is there just two sides? You know, there's there should be five, six parties, valid parties that have an ability to get elected to office every time we have elections. But we're also seeing today we're fighting over this stupid thing called an ID. I mean, we have lost all sense of rational thought because I have friends from all sides, right? I do not I surround myself with good people. I don't care what your belief system is. I don't care if you're a vegan, vegetarian, eat carnivore, as long as you don't eat children or pets, I'm good. But with that, it's like when you look at ID, this is a perfect example of us losing our mind. Why? How is not showing an ID to do the most important thing you can do as a citizen in this country racist? This is insane. Show your ID and vote. That's it. That's a simple rule. But we got both parties digging in the heels, you know, and it's like, wait a second here. I can't, I've been around both sides, like I said, and I firmly believe both sides are the same thing, that with a little different agenda, but their main agenda is to take your money, keep control on you, and make sure you don't live a free life on your own terms. Like Matt Kibbe says, don't hurt people and don't take their stuff. Doesn't get any simpler than that. If you're not harming anyone, who cares? Who cares what you're doing? If you want to run around naked on 50 acres in the middle of the desert, it doesn't hurt me. If you're gay and you want to get married, I don't care. It does not affect me. It does not hurt me. This has nothing to do with my life.
100%. Yeah.
So,
True.
yeah, I mean, I think we just need to look at and there's no way, and I've battled this. I battled this with again, Dan Bongino, right? He firmly believes that the Republican Party needs to be reformed. I completely and utterly disagree. And I say we will never have true freedom in this country of the individual, and not this whole thought of everyone must sacrifice for the collective, as we're seeing in this pandemic. That's a whole nother topic. But that with that, I believe we will not get rid of the corruption and the swamp until there is a valid third party that is truly representative of Americans. That is how this changes. But is that going to happen? Hmm, probably not. So how do you change it? Because then people go, well, this is what am I doing? Why am I even here? This is completely futile. And I go, no, it's not. I go, you change where change happens is by you can stop complaining and being a victim and yelling at everyone else for doing the things that you're doing yourself. That's the part that drives me nuts in this country. I call it, a health guy. Fat people training fat people makes absolutely no sense. I see it every day. I see it every single day. That doesn't work. So, what we need is you look in the mirror and you go, okay, how do I fix my stuff first? Then I can complain about all these other things. But until you fix yourself first, you really need to keep your mouth shut and work on you. Work on getting your act together. Then you can work on bettering your family. Then you can work on teaching your kids how to live right and how to be better people and stewards of the planet. Then you can teach your community. Then your community can teach your county. Then your county can teach the state. It's this ground up swell that people are ignoring. The change starts with you. You are the change. It's not the president, it's not Congress, it's you. If we all had our act together, they would be absolutely powerless over us. And I'll bring in this because we talked about this prior to recording. The three principles of the simple life of what I teach. It's the three-legged stool. It's optimal health, financial freedom by being debt free, finding your life purpose. And people go, that is really stupid and simple. And I always go, okay, how many of those are you doing and have you mastered? Straight down to the feet. They've put their head down. And I go, exactly. That's the problem. It's simple, but these are the three hardest things you'll master in your life. Simple does not mean easy. And with those, when I first created them, I didn't realize how they structured into the fight for freedom. I did, but I didn't. And what I meant by that is the three things today that big business and big government has control over. Well, it's those three things. You take those three things back and you empower yourselves with a three-legged stool, you literally make the government almost useless. Healthcare, massive, massive problem in this country right now. Financial freedom. Everyone is eyeballs up in debt. If you're debt free, guess what? That $15 an hour actually does become a living wage. I live on about 24 grand a year right now because all my money goes into my company and projects. I, I do this firsthand. I actually do this stuff. And by finding your life purpose, that's a big problem too, is most people are floating around in this world without any purpose. You have to find your purpose. Why are you here? It's not to have 15 million Facebook followers. It's not to have 52 pairs of shoes, 5 sets of golf clubs, and a garage stacked to the roof full of crap and Christmas ornaments. That's not life purpose. Life
Amen.
purpose is about bettering yourself and then bettering other people's lives through your actions. That's purpose. And we're completely removed from that. But if we go back to those three things, I think what we'd be dealing with in this country would be very different. And that's why I preach it so hard and why I push what I do is I'm just trying to live the freest life I can and share it. That's all I'm doing. It is that basic. There's, like I said, there's no agenda. there's I'm not flying around in a private jet, people, and eating caviar and drinking wine. I would never own a private jet, even if I had the means to do so.
Yeah, that is what's really at the heart of our way forward, I think, as not only a country, but as a planet is, personal responsibility, cleaning up yourself, cleaning up what's going on with you, getting your act together, and then going out and helping other people
Hmm.
and the planet. So 100% love it.
Yeah, it's a simple pay it forward. And that's what I teach with my stuff too is, I tell them, once you read a book of mine, give it to someone. If you got a lot of people buy multiples because then they highlight it, because I do the same thing in books I read. So I take notes and I highlight and I go, the best way for you to do this is share the podcast. Give a book away. Buy them a book. I have the Simple Life Journal, which I just relaunched. Huge project. Journals. I hate journals, to be honest with you. I think journaling is stupid. I think a blank journal is dumb. So I created a journal with 35,000 words of content and action items that you do for a year every single day. So there's motivation, there's structure. And I tell people, if you do this for a year, you will come out on the other end far, far better than when you started. And that's not being cocky or arrogant. I followed it. That's how I created it. I do it. And so I launched that book, and that's the three-legged stool in a nutshell. It's the three-legged stool compounded into a journal and taking the action, because I knew the books, people like them. I get the emails and I'm okay, but how do I better it? How do I get people to even take another step? So everything I do is about teaching, education. How do I get them? How do I get what I do to resonate more? How do I get it easier? How do I make it more applicable? That's hard. And that's what I do. That's all I do. I'm always trying to create the better wheel of freedom. That's all I'm trying to do, because I'm selfish, and I want to know if you guys agree with this. I am selfish. I'm a human being. I have selfish needs. I tell people, the more screwed up this country gets, the more irresponsible we are as individuals. Well, guess what? The worse it is on my life. You make my life miserable. So by me helping and putting my pinch of positive ingredients in the positive change pie, I'm being selfish because I want people to improve and live the life they want, because it also makes my life better. That's just direct honesty. This pandemic thing, it didn't affect me as much as most people, but it still really pissed me off because it inhibited my freedoms that I'd worked so hard for. To eliminate these things, it still impacted me. And the reason it impacted me is because of other people not taking responsibility for their actions. And I don't know if you want to get into that. It's been pounded into the ground, but yeah, it's the pandemic's an interesting exercise of power and influence on people.
Yeah, no, I think it's been played out. I think it's been talked about to death, but absolutely, I just my one my 2 cents on that is, yeah, we set off on one mission in late or mid, almost the end of 2019, and we had to shift fire and go a completely different way because the world closed down and we weren't out traveling, and
Yep.
so yeah, I hear you.
I haven't done a speaking event for over a year. So I felt, I was going a little stir crazy, even though I live free and go wherever I want, but I can't even really travel. And where I'm upset now too is that I don't know, how do I put this? I'm not going to get the immunization. I was on the fence for a while. I worked for the FDA. I dealt with this. I've been poked and prodded and injected with 50 bazillion things between the military, State Department, you name it. I've got it. This one scared me. First of all, it's a different way of carrying a vaccine. So it's experimental. I would rather not be an experiment. Been there, seen that, not real interested, and I'm not in the risk category. So for me, I'd much also rather have everyone else who's in the risk category get immunized first. And then if at the end, well, now I waited and I go, no, I pretty much don't want to do that. But now they're saying, in order to force me to do it, well, we may create a vaccine passport. That is an absolute complete infringement on my freedom. 100%. You cannot force me to do something that does not benefit me and does not benefit others. It does not. It doesn't. I don't want to hear it. I don't care. The numbers are all skewed. I worked in this stuff. It's a flu strain. And guess what? Even non-COVID flu strains from here on out, because of our obesity and health problem, are going to kill more and more people every single year. That is just a fact. That is how viruses work. So by me getting immunized, so what next year? Now I got to get one for COVID 20. Then the next year I got to get one for COVID 21. I see it as a slippery slope of non-ending impingement on my freedom. So now I can't travel because I'm not getting on a plane and wearing a mask for 5 hours just to fly one stretch from west to east. It takes me 14 hours to go from West Coast to East Coast for some of my speaking engagements, full day. I'm not wearing a mask for 14 hours and then die of lung cancer 2 years from now because I've been breathing in all my own exhaust fumes for, a couple years. So now I'm driving. I'm going to have to drive to my events as they occur. But what are they going to do? Maybe that event now says, well, you don't have your vaccine passport. You can't speak here. Oh, so now you're inhibiting my ability to make a living as well. That's where I see this slippery slope with all this. And that's why I've kind of drawn my line in the sand on it too. I'm going, no, even I'm not going to get it. I won't. I'll just work around it. And if you want to impinge my freedom even more and make it worse, well, maybe a group of us need to get a really good attorney and we'll figure this out because it is a violation of the Constitution for sure. You cannot force me to do this.
I know I've been kind of the same mindset of what's the greater benefit or the greater risk, an experimental vaccine being injected into your body. But what recourse do we have? We're in the same boat as far as wanting to travel. And if they do pass the passport card, I just don't see how simple voting anymore
It
is
won't
really
work.
going to fix a lot. Yeah.
It won't work. And that's the problem is, and that's the freedom of having 50 states, right? You can travel and go to a different state that has your belief system and does that. But now they're trying to blur that line between between the sanctity of individualism of states as separated from the government as our country was created that way. It was to make sure power does not concentrate at the top. Well, they're trying to blur that line now. And I agree with you. I'm like, I just talked to a friend who went to Mexico and they had to get a COVID test to come across. I went, oh, that's interesting. You had to do that to come back, but we're letting in thousands of illegal aliens every single day and they're not getting tested. Huh, that's interesting. And it's a weird place. And I think I talk to people and I don't know, there's times when you literally think you're losing your mind because none of it makes sense. So what do you do? And I tell people, well, I live in states. I'm getting ready possibly to leave one state because I don't believe in what they do anymore. So I'll move. But at a point, how many times can you move? In speaking, I just don't know where that's going now. I don't know. The events I speak at are more freedom libertarian based. So I don't think they're going to play that game too, but they're trying to force their hand as well. They'll put pressure on the event center and say, well, you're opening yourself up to liability if these people aren't, don't have a vaccination. I don't know. But if we let that vaccination passport go and let it go through, we're doomed because there's no going back. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse. I traveled with a immunization record because with the State Department being in the government, when I went to foreign countries, obviously they want to make sure you're immunized against, smallpox, the basics, the very basics, not the flu, for God's
Right.
sake, but it was smallpox, polio, hepatitis, the real basic things that, they don't want that coming in. But the flu's the flu. You're not stopping that. A vaccination passport, I hate to break it to people, that's not stopping the flu. The flu spreads every single year because we can travel worldwide, uninhibited, through borders, period. So what are you going to do now? You going to vaccinate 7.5 billion people every single year? That's what I mean. It makes zero sense. I don't know what the answer is. I wish I was a life clairvoyant, but I don't have the
Me
answer to
too.
that.
Right.
I don't. But one of it is be healthy. I haven't gotten sick. I haven't gotten anything. I haven't gotten a cold in 2 years. I haven't been sick at all. So, and I've been hidden. I've been out. I don't wear a mask. So unless I get yelled at and I have to get something in that store, and I'll wear it. I'm not a jerk, but I'm also a realist. If I'm in my car, I'm not going to wear a mask because I'm not stupid. If I'm riding my mountain bike, which I saw this many times in Southern California when I went out to visit, I'm not going to wear a mask. You're just being ignorant at that point. And now we have this other problem We have millions and millions of masks in the ocean, in landfills, all over the streets. Hmm, what's worse? You tell me, and the fact that the people, ooh, I don't know if we want to go there, but I've talked about a little bit, but we haven't even got the true information on the demographics of the people who passed away from COVID, pure COVID, not
Mhm.
any conditions, secondary conditions. We don't have the numbers of people who died just from COVID. If we did, I'll bet you it would be less than 10,000 people. It might be even less than 1,000 people. I'm talking not obese, not elderly, not, type 2 diabetes or type 1 diabetes. I'm not talking, multiple heart attacks, stroke. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm just talking if you can go down and narrow down how many people, healthy Americans, died from COVID only, it would be a minuscule number. And I'm not trying to be a jerk or insensitive. Hey, people, when they yell this, I go, well, you do realize my grandmother and aunt died within 8 weeks of each other from the flu, the bird flu. I go, and it was the bird flu. So I'm not insensitive to this, but they had multiple, multiple underlining conditions that they could have died at basically any minute from anything. A basic cold would have probably killed them. So I'm a realist as well. And so, yeah, we're in a very strange place. But again, how do you take it back? Three-legged stool. Focus
Yeah.
on that. And if everyone follows that, how can big corporate America and how can big government rule over you? They can't. There's no money in healthy people. None. Very little.
Yeah. We don't really have a health care system. We've got a disease system.
We got
Uh,
a disease maintenance system. And
there you
unfortunately,
go.
it appears the system creates a lot of the diseases. How many people knew they had high cholesterol until the pharmaceutical told them they had high cholesterol and actually manufactured the high cholesterol number. Hmm. Not many people had high cholesterol until then. And that's where it gets tricky, this tricky, slippery slope. And I worked in the FDA, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. I was around these pharmaceutical companies a lot. They're pretty evil. I'm just going to say it. And I brought Gerald Posner, who wrote Pharma, on my podcast, and I highly recommend people go listen to it. He wrote the most detailed book on Purdue Pharma, which I was in on that settlement when they were doing the Dr. Feelgoods. I actually had part of that case in my area. It's disturbing. It is a lot of things that we're suffering from these companies are doing are 100% criminal. If you were an average citizen and you conducted yourself with the same behavior, you would be rotting inside a prison cell. But again, what's the answer? Well, you don't rely on Purdue Pharma. you know, be healthy and don't take their drugs. How about that? Maybe you do some research and realize that maybe, taking a highly addictive substance, and I've taken it, I've taken hydrocodone. I had to take it after my back was fused, but I already knew ahead of time that I had to get off it as quick as possible. And guess what? I had withdrawals after 10 days. I got off it, was in extreme pain, mind numbing pain, the worst pain I'd ever been in. And I said, I got to get off this stuff. If I don't get off this stuff, there's going to be major problems. I had withdrawals for 2 days just for taking it for 10 days.
10
Wow.
days. Wow.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. So I tell people, and it didn't stop the pain. It just knocked me out on a heroin high. That's what it did. I just punked out. I was off in loony land, but I was still in a great deal of pain. And that's what I mean. It's, we got to be careful. Take responsibility for your own actions. Why not? Don't get me wrong, too. Things break. I'm not poo pooing our medical system. We need doctors. You're going to probably have to get a surgery. I've broken a lot of bones. All my surgeries have primarily been mechanical, all mechanical things that broke, snapped, got, worn out. That's part of life too. And we're lucky that, our predecessors, 10,000 years ago, they just died. They didn't make it very long. We have this ability to live far longer and have these corrective surgeries to live a much better state of life. So, trust me, I'm an integrative guy. I believe taking old ancient wisdom in medicine and merging it with modern medicine. Use the two together. Don't rely on one or the other. I don't want my naturopath doing back surgery on me, just like I don't want my MD, who's 250 pounds, 5'4", giving me nutritional advice. So, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
True that. Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely. And I don't mean to suggest that, the healthcare workers are to blame. I've had some truly amazing doctors help me through some
me
things.
too.
And, but I've also come across some doctors who just didn't really do much in the way of fixing what was wrong. So yeah, I mean, integrative medicine, absolutely. Yeah, that's been my path as well.
Well, modern medicine is look at a chart, diagnose, and give a prescription. That is, I'm not being a smartass. That is literally what they're taught. And so that's what I mean. The industry is so big and there's so much money in it. It's like you go to the grocery store. The average grocery store today has 48,000 items in it. Go down the chip aisle and take a good look around. And I've used this example too. I go, I can eat bags of chips all day long, thousands and thousands of calories of junk, garbage. There's something, I think, worldwide, there's over 100 different flavors of Doritos.
Holy cow.
Uh, Honestly, I don't remember hearing about a caveman having 50 different choices, tastes of elk. Um, you know what I mean? And then I would tell them, I go, eat the same amount of calories in carrots that you can in chips in a day. I go, it's literally impossible. You'll get nowhere even in the neighborhood of those calories. And it's kind of that, right? The system is rigged to make you fat, unhealthy, and keep spending. That's not being some fatalist or, total negative attitude. It's a realist. I see it for what it is. Humans 10,000 years ago didn't eat Doritos. You know why? A, they didn't have them, but B, it wouldn't be considered food. So they wouldn't eat it. You know what I mean? It's kind of making those smart decisions and understanding what are humans intended to do, right? What are we intended to eat? What was around us? We needed a good source of clean water. We primarily survived on eating animals and migrating around and following animal herds. Nothing against vegans, vegetarians. Hey, whatever works, whatever floats your boat. I get it. But this is reality. This is how humans evolved and what they survived on. Then what would they do? How would they spend their free time? Family, community, teaching, elders, taking care of their elders, elders passing down lessons, trying to make their lives better, survival. Survival was priority number one. And from there, it was about free time, right? So they had their purpose. They didn't even have money. You know, Money's pretty new. This whole exchange thing of changing a shiny object for another shiny object, all brand new. I would trade you a pelt for, say, some meat or some other thing that I needed because I had to carry everything on my back when we moved. I didn't have the ability to carry all my junk behind me. So it's kind of get back to that rational thinking of where humans came from and how we got here. I'm not saying live in a cave. I'm not saying going out, and killing rabbits with spears, which is fun. But you know what I mean? It's just thinking through the process of what a human is. And we're in a completely unnatural element today. I'll use this, and you guys can tell me what you think of this. I always use this example. We have cities all over the country now. I think cities are completely and utterly unnatural to humans. I think nothing against people who live in cities. I've lived in many, but I've learned in my older age that I think they're an unnatural way for humans to live and communicate. We're just not meant to have that many people in one place, not living in boxes, driving boxes, working in boxes. It's all boxes. Well, boxes don't exist in nature. There's no such thing as a box. There are no perfect squares in nature anywhere in the universe. No one knows of. There's none. but we live in building them. We literally survive in these things. So if you do that and you look at it that way and go, okay, how about I take 1,000,000 wolves and I stick 1,000,000 wolves in a square mile? What would happen? You would see behavior that would be absolutely frightening. They would literally slaughter each other. And so again, rational thinking. Why are we so miserable? Why am I unfulfilled? Why do I feel like I'm wasting my time? What am I doing here? Well, I went to the sticks. I grew up in the sticks. I grew up in the middle of nowhere, had no money, had no, my toys were a bike, basketball, baseball mitt, and a football, and a dog, and a shotgun. Those were my main things. All cost far less than someone 12-year-old's iPhone today. Those were my tools. That's how I spent my time. And I thought about it later on in life and went, what made me happy? Guess what? Being back out in nature, living the life I wanted, not harming people, you know, doing my own thing. I think if we think more along of that progression, I'm not saying everyone go moving the sticks because you're going to screw my life up, but you know what I mean?
Right.
It's just, you can live what I teach in a city. Everything I teach works just as well in a city as it does in the sticks. But you have to think of things that way. I could be wrong. Maybe the iPhone is the end all to all happiness. I don't know.
Yeah, not so much. I'm
Yeah.
thinking no.
No.
Gary, we could go on talking for probably another hour, maybe even two. I mean, we haven't even touched on a
Yeah,
bunch
I
of.
know we missed it. I got on tangents. I'm sorry.
No,
Oh,
it was
no, it's all
perfect.
great.
Um, but so again, there's so much more we could talk about. You have so many more offerings for folks. Where can people find out more about what you do, and maybe just kind of tell us a little bit about what's going on with your website, what they can find there, and podcast, name of the podcast again.
Hmm. Yeah, the easiest way is to go to my Facebook page where we all yell it. No, I'm kidding. I don't have a face. Don't. Everyone just yells at each other. Um, my website is the place where everything is housed. If you need to find anything I do, it's on the website, thesimplelifenow.com. Don't go to The Simple Life. You'll end up at Nicole Richie and Paris Hilton. I don't even know. Doesn't exist anymore. But go to thesimplelifenow.com. My podcast is there. I sell all my books, digital, physical. I own all my books. I print all my books, even though some are sold obviously on Amazon because Jeff Bezos doesn't have enough money. But you know what I mean? Everything I do, I walk the walk. So I own everything. My books are printed in the US. They're made by Americans. Every product I have is made in America. It's done here. Nothing against people in other countries, but I live here. I need to support my own country. Crazy thought. Um, so that's the place. I mean, everything's there. And I do it that way on purpose so people can go there and it's kind of the place to go. Not a safe space because that's dumb, but you know what I mean? It's the place where I say, if you need to find all of my information, it's all housed there. You don't have to go to a social media site. You don't have to go over here. Courses, everything's there.
So,
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. This has been just a awesome conversation and a delight. And as we're talking, I'm thinking, does he have a microphone in our house? Because we've had a lot of these same conversations. So we appreciate you. Thank you so much.
absolutely
Well,
love what you do. Yeah.
I've heard that before, and I think there's a lot more of us out there. Um, and I've had people come to me and say, they go, God, I thought I was losing my mind. I thought I was the only one out here with these thoughts. And I went, well, when I left the government, I thought the exact same thing. I thought there was something wrong with me because I had to leave. I had to leave to save my soul. I couldn't computate what was going on. It made no sense to me. And I think this helps by us having more podcasts and us. That's the thing. We have to create, again, Libertarian Party. Go create something. I'm sick of hearing you talk about crap. Go create something. Do something to help people. That's how the change is. You can run crappy candidate after crappy candidate, and you can talk about whatever you want to talk about until you actually put together something that is action based. Nothing changes. Nothing changes if nothing changes. And I firmly believe in that. Each one of us has to take the responsibility to make this a better place and fight for what we believe in.
We have to do it together, friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well said. Absolutely.
All right, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.